And a great big hello to each and every one of you, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. Steve Dotto here. How the heck you doing this fine day, along with April? How are you doing, April?
I'm good. I'm so sorry. I have double streaming here.
Mute yourself. You got your tab open.
I do. So sorry. Hi, everybody.
And this is a big one today.
It is. It's, you know what? It's such a huge part of what we do every day, whether you use it for personal or business. It is definitely it's a great topic. And we have lots of friends here today to talk about it.
That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the number.
Oh, it is a big day. Yes, it is.
It's our 150th Webinar Wednesday today. So, this is it's I guess over 3 years that we've been doing them now. So we're glad that you're joining us for this special one, and it is a special day as well, depending on where you are in the world. In Canada today, this is a Remembrance Day where we honor our those who served our country. And normally speaking, we have a big celebration at 11 o'clock every November 11th at the local cenotaph or the local war memorials. But this year with COVID, we were unable to do so. So just a great big to all of you who served, an extra special welcome to our Webinar Wednesday today. We are thinking of you all day in all ways. So today's topic is we're going to be talking about mastering your inbox. So we're going to be focusing on, we're going to be showing primarily, well, I'll be using Gmail as a backdrop, but I want to let everybody know that I've created a document that has all of the different features that are in Outlook that are related to the same features that I'm going to be talking to you about today. We're going to be looking at not necessarily techniques, but tools that are built into our emails, into our email inbox, into our email client that sometimes we don't use. And sometimes it's a good idea to just kind of pull back, open the hood, take a look underneath and see exactly what's in there. So that is our plan today. But before we get into it, a few little details to take care of. First, our show today is brought to you by our friends at Restream.io. That is actually how we're broadcasting today and live streaming. Restream is a live streaming service that allows you to multicast, allows you to create one live stream and deliver it to multiple platforms, which we are doing today. We have our friends on from Facebook Live as well as from YouTube Live, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. You can restream and you can repurpose your live stream to multiple social accounts and multiple streaming accounts using Restream. And we're also using Restream's Studio, which is the actual broadcast interface, which allows us to incorporate and deal with you, talk to you in chat, add all of our graphics, bring in guests, stream the pre-recorded video through. So if you are interested in finding out and maybe doing a little bit of live streaming yourself, I'll get April to drop the link in for Restream.io, which is our sponsor today. So thanks so much to them for supporting us. Speaking of support, I'd be totally remiss if I did not do a great big shout out right now to our patrons. Hey patrons, this is the 150th episode that you folks have been supporting.
That's awesome.
Autotech the channel, but more specifically, Webinar Wednesday is here because of the support we have through our patrons, and which they are legions of patrons that have been with us. Some of you for nearly 4 years. And so I just want to do a great big shout out and thank you all so much. For those of you who don't know what Patreon is and what our patrons are, is we are supported. We do one of these tutorial webinars each and every week. Well, with a few exceptions, we take the odd week off, but they're always training. They're always tutorials on productivity or content creation. And I think we teach some really valuable content in it, and our patrons agree, and they support us financially, $10 a month. And for that, they make sure that we're on the air, which we appreciate, but we also make sure that they have access to all of our previous webinars. The deal here is we deliver Webinar Wednesday free for a week. It's live. Anybody can register and take this training with us right now. It's available in replay for 1 week, and then after the week is up, we archive it, and then it's there for our patrons. And there are now 150 of these tutorial webinars that are a part of our patrons' perks. And there are other perks as well, but I'll direct you to patreon.com/Dottotech to take a look. And so this is just a great big hello and shout out and thanks to all of our patrons. And if you are considering supporting us, we would appreciate your support. It keeps us on air, and it's kind of the wind beneath our wings. So let's dive into the topic today, which is mastering your inbox. So as I said, we're going to be taking a look at the tools that are within our email client. We're going to use Gmail as a backdrop today. But if you are an Outlook user, I encourage you to make sure that you registered for this webinar so that we will send you a follow-up email, because I'll include it in the email that we send out after the webinar. I will include the links to the different tools that are analogous to the features that I'm going to be showing you today within Gmail. Now, it's a typical Dottotech Webinar Wednesday. I pre-recorded the demo. The demo is about 20 minutes long. While you're watching the tutorial, April and I will be in chat answering as many of your questions as we can. Once we are done with it, we will return live and we will answer as many of your questions as we can through to the top of the hour. Does that sound like a plan? Is there anything in chat that I should be paying attention to, April, or is everything going swimmingly?
Everything is going swimmingly. And yeah, we have lots of great friends here today from all over the world, and everyone's giving thank you to our vets, the 150 episode here. And we have lots of people hoping that you may touch on a little Apple Mail today too.
I'm not. I didn't do Apple Mail. Sorry. I'll have a look at it before we send out the email and find some tools. I don't like Apple Mail. I've said it before, and so I apologize to anybody who might be insulted by that. But Apple Mail did me wrong many years ago, and I've never gotten back on the up and up with Apple Mail. It's not that I love Gmail so much, but it's there, and so many people are using it, and it's part of that Google ecosystem. So that's why we're going to be using Gmail. But again, almost everything that I show you today, you'll be able to find a tool that will do the same in Apple Mail. And if you know it's available, then you can dive in yourself under the hood and find it and make sure that it is working for you. You know, April, looking at the names flowing by in the chat, I see a lot of familiar. I bet that there are people here who have done over 100 webinars with us. I just recognize some of the names happening over and over. Yeah, I
agree. We have Chef Dennis. We have Peggy. Yes, there's so many names here that I see on a
you want to be careful because you don't want to leave anybody out.
I love all of you, and believe it or not, I actually, when we have conversations behind the scene, I can name many of you. So I promise I would not miss any of you.
Okay, there we go. All right, so here's the deal. I'm gonna jump into the video. April and I will be in chat. On the other side of the video, we will answer as many of your questions as we can, and we're going to start out today by taking a look at the Gmail interface itself, some of the tools. So the format is going to be, I'm going to be taking a look at the Gmail interface, and then we're going to take a look at some of the machinations inside in the settings. But we're also going to just deal with, surprisingly enough, we're going to start by looking at the Compose window. There are things in the Compose window that sometimes we just don't look at. So let us have a look now. Let's start in the Compose window, which is the basic place that we write all of our emails within Gmail. And let's create a new Compose to compose a new email message. Now, as soon as we do that, an interesting thing happens that I don't think a lot of people are too aware of. That is, as soon as we create a new message, it becomes a draft automatically. We can work with it here, kind of docked into our, into the browser. Or if we click here, we can expand it and we can make it pop out, give us a little bit more room to work with. But here's the key. If you start writing an email message at this point here, and then for some reason you close this down, a lot of people start over again if they've done that because they don't realize that Gmail automatically saves everything. And where they save it is we'll just start a new message here. New message here. Where they save it is, watch what happens when I close it. It's saved here in the drafts folder. So if we go here, here's the one that we just created, and we see that it's got new message right there. It is the same email that I was just working on. So sometimes you accidentally close it and then you think you have to start over again because it's not readily evident where it is. It's created as a draft automatically. Gmail saves it for us as we go. Good to know. Now, built into Gmail are a variety of different automation tools that will allow us to streamline our process. And you can see right here, kind of loud and proud, right in the middle of the screen, one of the automation tools that Gmail builds in, which is managing our signature file. Now, you can strategically use your signatures to streamline your processes by using multiple signatures. For example, this is just a handwritten signature that I put at the bottom of my Gmail message. But if you take a look down here at the very bottom, the pen tool here, you can manage your signatures. Now, with this demo account, I've only got my one basic signature, so I can turn it off or I can turn it on here. But if we want to manage and create some unique signatures that are designed for single purposes, I'm going to just close this down. We know we can get back to it through drafts now, do we not? Let's go into settings. Now, if you haven't used your Gmail settings for a while, you'll notice that it's changed here. With the latest version of Gmail, you have quick settings, which just basically show you the physical way that Gmail is presented to you on the screen. But if you go into see all settings, this is the old settings area that we're used to that has access to all of the inner machinations of Gmail. And if we scroll down within this, we will see within the first one, which is the general tab, we scroll way down. Here we have signature options. So we can create multiple signatures for different purposes. So if I wanted to create a new one that's, say, from a personal, and I'm going to create another new one that's going to be business. Let's just say that we have those two. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit the business one. For the business one, I'm going to say this is work related, just so you can see the difference. And for the personal one, I am going to say this is personal. Okay, I've made those changes to the signatures. Now you can add graphics in here. You see, we've got a full kind of HTML compose window that you can put links in. You can see that we've got in our main one a link to allow people to join us on Webinar Wednesday. So you can make the signatures as elaborate as you want. It's a way for you to convey some salient information to the people you are emailing to. And you can also make them topical or seasonal. You can have Merry Christmas if you're reaching the Christmas season. You can create all of these different signatures. But here's a key. You can create as many as you want here, but it does you no good to just create them here unless you scroll down to the very bottom of the page within Gmail. And unlike the compose window where Gmail automatically saves whatever you create, in the settings, it does not save it unless you tell it to save the changes. Once you have saved the changes, you will then have access to those new signatures. So let's take a look in our message that we're composing and see if I'm right. I'm going to click down here on the little pen tool, which is the signature, and now I can have my business signature, which has said this is work related, and I can change it to my personal one, which is this is personal. So you can be as creative as you want. Make them for holidays and for different events in your life. Have personal and business ones. You can have multiple signatures. But when you compose your email, be certain that you are choosing the right signature as you're sending it out, because you might have just one email address with multiple signatures, but you don't want to send the wrong signature file that's attached, that's purpose-built for one group of people that you want to send emails to, and send them the wrong one. That's just kind of one caveat you should keep your eye on. Let's not leave the compose window for a moment, because I want to look at some of the other details within it. There's some more automation features that I want to share with you. But there's also just a lot of formatting options and different options for making sure that we have all of the different assets within the email that we want to, including some fun ones. So when you look at the My Email window right here, right now, I have the formatting options turned on. Down the bottom here, we have a toolbar that gives us access to some areas within, some additional features within Gmail. The formatting options is usually turned on. It's often on by default. And this is just your basic formatting. So you can format your text, adding bold or italic or indented or adding numbered lists to your copy as you make your email a richer environment. But down beneath that, you see some things that you might not see in your Gmail tool. That's because I have Bitmoji installed in Chrome on my computer, and I also have Loom installed, which is a screencasting and screen recording tool that allows me to send video emails. And so that's built in so that I can capture them here. So if you've got different assets included in your Chrome installation on your computer, you'll have access to those tools right from within here. So for example, if I wanted to add a nice Bitmoji here to let somebody know that I care about them, I've got Bitmoji installed, which I typically use on my smartphone. And there we go. I'm going to get a nice inspirational "let's go" idea, and I can add that nice little Bitmoji. So all of those features are down here along the bottom, next to where we were looking at the signature tool. Now, if we look though over on the far right-hand side of our Compose window, we'll see 3 dots, and the dots give us access to some other functionality within it, including, I think, one of the most underutilized but most valuable tools that Gmail has to offer, and that is Gmail's template tool. Gmail will allow us to create templates. Now, other people might call them snippets. You might think of them a little bit differently. What it is it's a piece of copy that you put into your email message that you want to have as a template. That's something that you use over and over again. So if you're in technical support and you've got a series of instructions that you have to type out multiple times, you can use a template so that you can drop that into any email you're composing so you can send it. Now, some of us use keyboard shortcut tools to do the very similar thing. For example, I use Text Expander that does a lot of the same things across all tools as what this does just within Gmail. But let me show you how it all works. Let's say one of the things that I do a lot is people are often asking me what tools I use. So I've got a document here which has links to all of the different gear that I use here here at Dottotech. So rather than having to copy and paste this each time I use it, each time I want to send it, what I can do is I can compose it once. I could compose it in another tool and then copy and paste it here as I've just done. But then if I choose the template tool here, go under templates and say save the draft. So you remember what we call this message now, a draft message. So save this draft as a template. I can create a brand new template by clicking there, and I can save it for future reference. So I'm going to save it here as a new template, and I'm going to give it the name of Studio Gear. Okay, save it. Now, watch what happens. I'm going to close down this draft, and I'm going to create a brand new draft message. And let's say somebody has sent me an email and they said, Steve, I want to know what microphone you use. So rather than me looking up that microphone and going through all of that, let me expand this again so it's a little bigger. There we go. I'm going to go down here, and if I've done it right, here in my templates, I have Studio Gear. Do you see that? Click on that, and it auto-populates all of that information. So the same message, a templated message that you're going to send over and over again. Instructions on how to get to your house. Instructions on how to return product if you sell product. Instructions on how to register for something or how to fix something. Or in my case here, a shopping list of the different tools that I use within my studio. You can create templates with these using, you can create templates that you can use over and over again simply, and you can create as many as you want. As I said, the template feature within Gmail, one of the most underutilized, but one of the most valuable assets you can have. So when you add that to your signature file, you can see how you can become a much more effective communicator, saving you time and communicating more effectively at the same time. Let's go back into the settings menu. Actually, before I do, I'm in the draft folder here. If you go into your draft folder, just click on it and take a look at how many emails you have interrupted as you're editing them and creating them. And you might want to just select them all and discard all of the drafts because they're just cluttering things up. And when you do have to go into drafts on something that you're working for, it might be nicer if there's just a few less of them in there for you to have to work with. So I'm just going to get rid of all of mine. So I have discarded them all. There, I've got a nice clean draft folder now. Let's go back in to settings, because I almost guarantee you that if you spend a little bit of time looking even at just the general settings within your email tool, you're going to find a couple of features in there that you're not using that will make your life better. This is something that I like to do on a regular basis, and I like to walk people through. So let's just take a look through and see maybe there's a few things in here that you're not using. Here's one. Undo send. Now, this used to be in something called Google Labs, where Google was testing out features. So a lot of people haven't used this before, but this is a lifesaver. Have you ever clicked send and then immediately had sender's remorse? where you forgot to add the attachment, or you realize that you should have copied it to somebody, or you're sending it to an entire list and you just want to send it to one person and it really shouldn't go. Typically speaking, that happens in the first few seconds when you send the email. Is like, oh damn, and then you want to undo the send. You can set a cancellation period here, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. I like to set 30 seconds for cancellation. Now, it can be a little bit frustrating if you're one of those people who uses email for conversations, and people are expecting your email as soon as you hit there. I sent it to you, and maybe you're having a chat with them in some conferencing tool, and then they're saying they're waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. Well, it takes 30 seconds for it to leave your inbox. What happens is Gmail buffers it, holds it, and doesn't send it out to the general internet, at which point you cannot recall it. It waits for 30 seconds before you send it. And if you want to see how this works, so let's just do this. Let's create a new email. I am going to send it to info@DotterTech. I'm going to call it Sender's Remorse. And I forgot to put the attachment in. Doesn't matter. I click send. Oh, damn. I should have put an attachment in. I forgot it. Look here down at the bottom of the screen. Message sent. Undo, or I can view the message if I want to check it. But I have 30 seconds now to recall this message and not have it sent out to the great wild internet. I click undo, and now it reopens the Compose window and allows me to make any changes that I want to before I go to send it again. This could be a lifesaver. This is one of those features that you should all have turned on and recognize that you have access to and know where to control it. You can control how much time through the settings menu. Let's go back into the settings and see if we can find something else that you might not be using that will make you more productive, that will help you master your inbox even more. And as we scroll through, there's our cancellation, our undo send, which I know we are all now turning on in droves. Here we go. We've got something now called Smart Compose, which has been added fairly recently to Gmail. Now, Smart Compose allows Gmail to automatically fill in to kind of do predictive text, the same way you get the sometimes really irritating predictive text on your smartphone. It gives you that function within Gmail. So if it suddenly appeared and you're wondering where it is, this is it here. It's called Smart Compose. And if you don't have it, let me show you how it works. So let's once again go into our Compose window and let's start writing the sort of thing that you might send very traditionally to people. Thank you very much. Thank you very. See, now it's filled in much. So if you just hit return, hit tab, it then fills in that information. Now this will get to know you and slowly start to personalize. If we take a look here, the personalization is turned on. Smart Compose is personalized for your writing style. So over time, it will pay attention to what you are writing, and it will then slowly morph and reflect your personal style a little bit more. Now, you have to stop and think at this point here as you're looking at these tools and recognize that at this point here, Gmail is really taking a look at some very kind of intimate aspects of our communication. It's looking at our writing styles and it's offering suggestions of what you might want to say next. And as Gmail looks at millions and millions of emails from millions of us who use the tool, it gets smarter and it gets better at predicting what we might want to say and also recognizing individual styles. But this is where that entire concept of how much of our personal information we're sharing with Gmail, with Google, this is where that kind of rises to the surface. We're benefiting here from sharing a lot of information with Google, which Google is using to know more about us, which ultimately they'll use to market to us at some point in the future. So while this is a tremendous tool as far as adding functionality and saving us time, there's also a little bit of a dark side to a feature like this. I just thought I would throw that out there. Now, one of the things that they have incorporated in Gmail is Google is constantly looking at other tools that do things that we add on, different Gmail add-ons that we use, and the most popular features that people might charge us extra to add on to Gmail, they then take that and they add it and they add it to Gmail and allow us to have access to it. That's a long way to this one feature. Now within your inbox, if you scroll over to the far right-hand side, you will find something called the snooze feature. The snooze feature allows you to take an email and snooze it. And this is a tool that we used within Boomerang. There was a tool called Boomerang, which we've shown you a lot in the past here at the Dottotech channel. This is a great kind of inbox zero tool that allows you to reduce the amount of stress that you have in your life by reducing the number of emails that you have sitting in your inbox. So what happens is, let's say an email comes in that you're not ready to respond to yet, but it's something that's important. It's something that you're going to want to respond to. Now you can leave it in your inbox where it kind of haunts you and kind of mocks you, saying, Steve, you haven't done anything about this yet. Steve, you really should do something about this yet, which I don't know about you, but just increases the level of stress in my life. Or you can take this feature and you can say, you know what? Send this to me tomorrow morning. I'll be ready to deal with it tomorrow morning. And now it's gone. It's back out in the internet ether, and it's sitting there, and tomorrow morning, tomorrow morning, it will then appear as if by magic in my inbox as a fresh message when theoretically I'm ready to work with it again. This is deferral at its finest, but it is a good technique for reducing the amount of clutter in your inbox and not having something that you can't do anything about immediately just sitting there and, as I say, mocking you. So this snooze feature on email should not be abused, but if it's used properly, it is tremendously effective. Now, speaking of the snooze feature, the timing that email comes into your inbox is pretty important. Obviously, if you have a whole bunch of things that you can't deal with, it's very frustrating. So using the snooze feature is an asset here. But there's similarly, kind of on the same vein, when you go to send a new message to somebody, you have an option down within the send window. Let me just open it up a bit bigger again. Within the send window here, you have the opportunity to schedule the send. Now, this is another feature that used to be in the tool called Boomerang. So we can take this and you can choose when you want to send it. So we got to give it a recipient. And now we can choose that we can choose when it's going to be sent, or it'll suggest some times for you, or you can pick an exact time and date for an email to be sent. Now, why is this important? Well, if you're communicating with clients, for example, and maybe you're working late at night, and you don't want that email to go out and be in your client's inbox at 11:30 at night for a variety of reasons. One is if they receive a lot of emails overnight, it might get pushed down beneath the horizon, beneath the fold, and they might not see it. If you send it, if it's lost with a bunch of other email that comes afterwards and kind of pushes it down the list, that might be one reason. Another reason is you might not want your coworkers or your boss or your clients to know that you're actually working at 11:30 at night, which you might want because maybe you don't want them to think that you're available to do things that they ask you that late at night. So you don't want to give them the illusion that you are working that late at night. So instead, we will send it for 8:30 tomorrow morning. So there's a lot of reasons you might want to schedule when an email is going to appear in a person's inbox. And you can now do that with the schedule send feature, which is built in to Gmail now natively. Before we get to your questions, I am going to show you one other feature that's built into Gmail that will help make you a little bit more productive, I believe, and that is using the right sidebar. We're all very familiar with the left sidebar, which has all of our different folders and access to all of those things. Now it's also got access to all of the Google Meet stuff for doing video conferencing. But down the right-hand side, we also have the right sidebar, which gives us access to other Google tools, other tools within the G Suite of tools that give us access within email. Now, it's important to recognize that if you want to go in and manage your calendar, this isn't really the best place to manage your calendar, although you could, but really using the waffle board menu to launch your calendar is the best place if you want to jump into your calendar and work right within the native calendar, work within the calendar itself, right within the browser. That's the best way to do those things. But we do have access here to Google Calendar, Google Keep, which is Google's Notepad, and Google Tasks, which is their simple task manager. And if you are in an email that you're working with right here, and you decide that you want to add it to the tasks, you can go in and you can make a note based on the email that you're working on. You can also create a task yourself if you choose to use it that way. But really, the way to use the right sidebar is to recognize that so many tasks that we do are generated as a result of an email. So the fact that we have that I want to create a task here, or let's actually close this down. I open the calendar, I can create a new calendar appointment, and you see it automatically populates the subject to the topic from the email. So the best way to use this right-hand calendar, this right-hand sidebar, to be more effective is to think about anything relating to the email you're in, being able to take that and be able to then migrate that into one of these Google tasks, into one of these Google apps. But it actually goes beyond that, because if we take a look down here in the bottom, we can also add from the Google Workspace Marketplace, we can add third-party tools to it as well. But the same philosophy applies. It's not like if you wanted to set it up with Asana, which is a great task manager that we like to use on Dottotech. If you want to use it, it's not that you would then access your Asana account, but you would then take the email that you're working with and you would some way migrate it into Asana to be part of a task. I will actually show you. Let me just jump over into this is my real email. And let's say that I've got an email message here, which is from a PR firm. So it's something that can be seen by the public. It's not anything private. But if I wanted to turn this into an Asana task, so many of our tasks, so many of our projects, so many of our processes begin, the genesis of them is an email. If I take this and I say create a new task, we see right away that the task's name is the title of the email. So it's taking that email and it's pulling the content into the task. That's the philosophy behind this right sidebar. All of the tools on the right sidebar is they're going to be not access to those raw tools, but instead those tools as they relate to the email that you're working on. I hope that makes sense. But once you get your head around that process, then the right sidebar becomes a really valuable asset as well. I think that's it. I think it's time for us to jump in and see if we can answer more of your questions. I know we just focused today on tools within Gmail. There's so many third-party attachments that we could do. We could do hours and hours and hours of different third-party attachments that extend Gmail's functionality. But this is just looking within the tools we have within Gmail and finding better ways to use it. And we are back. There we go. Hey, April, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Lots of good questions.
Lots and lots.
Lots of great questions here.
Good questions, and we will answer as many of them as we can. And a reminder that if you signed up for notification of this, if you signed up and you registered for this as opposed to just jumped on live stream, we will be sending you an email which will have any links to the different resources that I talked about and some of the answers to some of the questions. Some people are having trouble finding some different things in it, and we will touch on that in a moment. But before we do, I'm going to do one more quick shout out and thanks to all of our patrons. This is our 150th Webinar Wednesday. And if you value the sort of tutorial content that we just delivered, which we do on a weekly basis for free, well, then we'd appreciate your support. And that support comes through our supporters at Patreon. So if you drop by the website, patreon.com/Dottotech, you can sign up there to be one of our supporters. We ask for $10 a month. And for that, we deliver some awesome perks. Two of the best of which are you support us to keep us on air on a weekly basis. And secondly, you get access to all of the replays of these webinars, of which there's now 150 in our Webinar Wednesday archives. So thank you so much for your support to all of our patrons. All right, April, we have so many questions. I'm going to deal with one of them right off the top. I was remiss when I showed the template feature, which I like a lot, where you have in the bottom right side of the Compose window, where you click there and you can add pre-written text and you can drop these templates in. You have to enable it, and the enabling place. I think I will screen share. Let me just do a quick screen share here, and I'll just show you because it's not too difficult to see exactly where. So you should have my screen now. Let me just turn on my screen. Actually, there it is. And I will navigate over to here. So where are we? Here we go. Making sure that I'm getting the right window up. I want to go into Gmail settings. So when you go into your Gmail account, when we go into settings, which is under the, let's go back into the main menu here. So you can see, so you go into settings, which are there under the gear menu. You go into see all settings and you scroll along. I showed you all in the general tab right here, but you want to go to the far right-hand side to the advanced. Under advanced, you have to turn on templates. I'd forgotten that they were turned on for ever so long on my computer. So you have to enable your templates, and then you will have access to those tools. I hope that helps.
Well, I want to just ask you, so we have a lot of people that are viewing like from a tablet. I would assume that it's a little bit different on a tablet because it's the mobile application, which that is always a struggle with desktop softwares, right?
So the mobile app, yes. If you are on an iPad, for example, and you're using the Google Mail app, the Gmail app on the iPad, you'll have some different options, and they're constantly evolving and constantly changing. It's the same as if you're on a smartphone. Is some of the features will be there and some won't. So we can't. We're talking about using it within the browser. Having said that, if you're on an iPad and you're in Safari, which is a browser class, desktop class browser, and you use Gmail within your browser window in Safari on an iPad, you should have access to the same tools. You won't have access to the things that we outside if we do plugins or if we do Gmail add-ons, but these native Gmail tools that we've shown you, like templates, those will be available to you.
All right. Do you want me to read you the questions?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay, this one's an easy one. What kind of mic are you using today?
The mic that I'm on today is my standard mic, which is an Electro Voice RE20, which goes through a Rodecaster the Rodecaster Pro audio interface into my Mac. So it's the Electro Voice RE20.
All right, great. Chef Dennis is saying, do you use TextBlaze? I believe you are the one who I learned it from. I use it for changing my signatures.
No, I don't use TextBlaze. There's a couple of signature files. Actually, over on Facebook, Ian Anderson Gray was talking about a tool that a lot of us used to use, which was called Ystamp. Yeah, I've stopped using Ystamp. I've never used TextBlaze, but yeah, so there are some other signature tools. Ystamp would allow you to insert things like videos in, which you can actually kind of MacGyver your own way now using the Gmail one. The one thing I'm not sure about, Ian was asking whether or not it automatically changed signatures based on which Gmail address you're working with. I believe Gmail does, but I haven't verified that.
It does, actually, because I use it.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Yes, it does.
And the only thing I want to add about Ystamp is that I love Ystamp and I have it, but I have trouble getting through servers with it. So sometimes, I have to change it to a text file because people can't reply to me or they don't see my message. So
here's the issue when you start sending an email that's too rich. If it's got videos embedded in the email, then the email servers start to see it as possible risk. And you'll get blocked in a lot of cases. So adding things like, even adding pictures to emails lowers its deliverability. And certainly if you add videos to your email, it really pushes down the deliverability because it's filtered out as spam that much more. And there's nothing we can do about this. There's no way on our side that we can build the technology that it's going to work better.
Right. Bernice is asking, how do I get rid of an ancient email address that no longer is used but occasionally pops up? I've eliminated it everywhere I can find, but up it pops. Help.
Yeah. So I imagine what's happened is you probably have to try and log back into the original account. Here's what I think might be happening is the server's still active, the email address is there, and in your account, at the root level of that account, you set up auto forwarding. You set it up to forward to another account, and that's why it's doing it. So the only thing you can do is if you can't get into that account, you have to block the address. Other than that, there's going to be no way for you to do it. You can't do it from your existing client because you're obviously not polling it. You don't have it. Make sure that you don't have it as one of the accounts that you're actually polling by looking for. So it's not actually turned on as one of the accounts you have in your email client. But I suspect it's being forwarded to your more modern address.
All right. Zenatus World is asking, are these settings the same to the free version and the G Suite?
Everything that I showed you is in the free version. It's all also in the G Suite.
Okay. Coach Milt is asking, why do you prefer Text Expander to Gmail templates?
I love Gmail templates in Gmail. Text Expander works universally. It works in all applications. So if I'm in Google Docs, if I am using a different email client, if I'm in chat talking in Slack to my team, Text Expander still works. So it works across all platforms as well as on my mobile device as a keyboard. So that's why I prefer Text Expander overall. But that feature, that doesn't diminish the value of that template feature in Gmail.
All right. How do you use custom emojis?
The custom emojis that I use, I'll get April to do a quick look for our Bitmoji demo. It actually comes from the mobile world. I have a custom tool on my iPhone called Bitmoji. It's a free tool where you create that avatar, that wonderful avatar that I've got, which was actually created by my stepdaughter, by Sophie. She created it, and so my Bitmoji game is very strong. So Bitmoji creates those custom tools, and then you can install Bitmoji as a Chrome extension so that it's available within Chrome, which is how it ends up in Gmail. So that's how I ended up with those custom emojis. There's a lot of different paths to custom emojis. On the iPhone now, they've got them. Facebook is starting to create custom emojis, but that's the route that I took, was through Bitmoji. And we have a nice little video on how we created them.
I have to spell it right to find it, though.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. George is asking, why in email I have 3 categories: inbox, social, promotions, but for the last 6 months, I don't receive social emails. Why?
Something got turned off. Something must have gotten turned off. You might have turned off notifications in your social platforms. Because those notifications coming from Instagram, coming from Facebook, coming from LinkedIn, you have notifications turned on to allow you to get the notifications from people from those platforms, and that's why it's appearing in your social tab. It's something got turned off within there.
All right. Can you explain how you do the written signatures again?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's so easy to do. Write down your signature on a piece of paper. Take your camera, take a picture of that piece of paper, put that into your photos library, and then import the photo into the signature inside of Gmail. You might want to do a little bit of editing of it. Typically speaking, when you take that picture, it'll be a little bit gray, so you want to whiten the background to kind of, which if you use a nice black pen or a Sharpie, you should be able to do. But that's the easiest way to do it. You could also use a webcam to hold the picture up and just snap a picture, but it's literally a photograph, a JPEG image that I took.
Jeffrey's asking, I'm having some issues with Apple Mail junk filter. How can I use Gmail for junk filtering?
So you can't use one tool's junk filter on another tool. And junk filters are a problem for us all, regardless of what platform you're on. And we all go through periods of time where we're going, what the hell are they thinking? We are in the middle of that right now. At least I am in the Gmail world, where every 3-4 weeks I go into Gmail's junk folder and I go, wait a minute, that's not junk. That's coming from somebody it gets hyper aggressive from time to time. You just kind of have to hold your nose with it and have enough discipline to go in and check from time to time and filter through, just scan through to make sure that stuff is not being missed. But that's it's kind of just one of the, it's a universal challenge. And I'm not going to say Gmail is going to do a better job. I don't know that it would do a better job.
Kilo, I'm sorry. What are your thoughts on Google Forms versus Microsoft Forms?
I haven't tested out Microsoft Forms, but I'm a huge fan of Google Forms. There's just so much that you can do with them, and it's such a creative way to communicate with your community. And they're free and they're simple. Again, I'll get April to share a video that we did on Google Forms, but Microsoft Forms, I imagine, are just as good. The whole idea of creating forms and using forms effectively as part of your strategy for communicating with your community is worth exploring and worth doing, and it's far easier than most people realize. If you hear thumping and pounding, my apologies. It's a day off here, and we have the family home, and they've decided today's a great day to hang pictures in the house. And so, even though I asked them not to pound on the walls while we're live, they might be doing it a little bit.
All right. Ed is asking, can you schedule a whole year of birthday greetings in your scheduling of emails?
I guess you could. I would personally not do that.
He added on a rainy afternoon.
I think it's a bad idea, Ed. It's a bad idea.
All right.
First of all, you're notified all the time of people's birthdays in other social platforms, but just think about every 2 years or something going through and just because because things like people die, and then you got to go in and you got to like pull these things out and stuff like that. And I just wouldn't schedule too far in advance. I know that was very, very, very dark, but I just don't like scheduling things like that. Speaking of scheduling things like that, before we get to our next question, I have to just pause momentarily and say schedule right now in your calendar next week here on Webinar Wednesday, because it's just going to get better. Next week, we are going to be taking a look at the Evernote update. Evernote just released their newest update of Evernote, including some kick-ass new features, a much more unified and consistent interface across all platforms. We haven't looked at Evernote in the last little while. I was part of the beta program, and I kind of dabbled my way through it, and I'm more happy than not happy with the general direction Evernote is taking these days. And so we're going to have a look at the release and what's changed in Evernote, and kind of a little peek at the future of Evernote. I know Evernote is a hugely popular topic here on Webinar Wednesday and with the Dottotech clan. So we'll be revisiting Evernote, the update, which is causing a pain in the ass for me, because it means that all of our existing Evernote content, our Evernote Made Easy course, and our Evernote Quick Start Guide is now out of date. Great.
All right. My laptop is my laptop is in Outlook for some reason. It's not deleting emails as junk email, but on my desktop it does. So I just looked and I have 8,000 emails. Is there a way to delete thousands at a time?
Usually there is. Usually you can just say delete all emails like this in Outlook, or you could just mass select. You can extend the window to 250 emails at a time, and then select them all and delete them if that's the case. But it's strange that it's not deleting off one and deleting off the other. I would check my account settings and my synchronization settings after I've deleted them, after you've got them both cleaned up. Because if you have two different databases that are out of sync, you could really bugger things up. But get it all kind of cleaned up and then check those sync settings.
Brian's asking, is there a way to see when an email I sent is read by the person receiving it in Gmail?
Yeah, there's a couple of tools within Gmail that will allow you to do that. Gmail itself natively will not do that. Having said that, there are a variety of different business and CRM tools that will allow you to do that, including one which I love, which we're using, called Mixmax, which I use regularly. And that tells you when people have read it, and it tells you how many times they've opened it, and it gives you all sorts of additional kind of intel, as well as it's got the most kick-ass calendar and invitation system on the planet. And we've shared it a couple of times in video. We did a long webinar on it, and we did a shorter one, so I'll get April to drop those links in. Mixmax for sure does it. Other tools will do it as well that are less of an investment than Mixmax. Mixmax is a pretty big system that you add on to Gmail. But if you're looking for those sort of CRM, if you're doing a lot of your business through email, Mixmax, especially for salespeople and that sort of stuff, is a tremendous tool.
You have me multitasking. Actually, it's kind of funny. Behind the scenes, I'm like, well, I'm deleting comments because I copy and paste in the wrong places. All right. No, you're fine. You're fine.
That's why we pay you the big bucks.
Dennis is asking, is there an undo to your trash cancellation period with a set time?
Yes, Google just announced it. They just told us, I think there's a 30-day period now that you can recapture your Gmail or your Google Doc, your Google account trash. But there is a time limit to when you trash things.
Jeffrey's saying Gmail is so cluttered with links. How can I simplify the interface? Is there a way to customize it?
I'm not too sure what you mean. It's so cluttered with links. Are you talking about the email window itself? I mean, you can have less. If you have less folders and stuff like that, it's going to streamline it. But basically, the email client is the email client. It is the way it is. There's, if you want a simpler interface, you should probably look at another tool.
All right. Diana's asking, is there a way to automatically delete older archived emails that are older than a certain date?
Yeah, you could just select and you could say anything older than this, delete. So you've got ways of doing that. within the when you select it, and then it'll select older ones. But yeah, that's deleting all of your old emails can be a little bit of a pain, and it can take a little bit of time, depending on the tool. In Gmail, I think you can select all of your older ones, but it's indiscriminate when it does it. It just takes everything.
Elliot's saying, I move one of my business email addresses to Gmail Suite with will Gmail stop putting it in my client's spam folders?
No promises.
Yeah.
No promises there.
All right.
You know, the way to avoid that is to have your clients whitelist your email address, and that's a fairly simple process where they right click on the email address and either they add you as a contact. If they add you as a contact with that email address in your contacts, Gmail won't put it in the spam folder. Theoretically, sometimes it manages to disappoint us, but that's the best route.
It does, and we can actually include the our whitelisting in the replay too, because we actually have a
good idea. We've got a nice document on how to whitelist. Yeah.
So invest in DFW commercial real estate. I'm considering abandoning my CRM, and I use Gmail. I'd like to try to integrate to use all together. Right toolbar recommendations. Wait until workforce transition. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Answer that.
So if you're abandoning your CRM in favor of using Gmail, I would definitely make sure that I have a CRM plugin that sits over top, something like Streak or Mixmax, something that uses Gmail as a basis for your account that you manage. If you're using a CRM and you've got that kind of business needs.
All right. Let's see. Does it have, it looks like Ismail is using both Gmail and Apple iCalendar. Does it have significant advantages to combine Gmail and Google Calendar instead?
Yes. Yeah. It's as far as I'm concerned, commit to one ecosystem. If you want to use iCal, if you like Apple's calendar tool, then use Apple Mail, then use Apple's contacts, then be in the Apple ecosystem. If you're going to be using Gmail, then use Google Calendar and use the other Google tools, use Docs and that sort of thing. Stay within your ecosystem. There's just so many benefits. That whole business that I showed you towards the end with the right sidebar, having clicking on an email and then going over to the calendar right sidebar, tapping on that and having that email copied into the appointment that you're doing, so you have references to why you created that appointment. It's so efficient, and cobbling two of them together just isn't going to work as well. So commit to one or the other.
Linda's asking, does Asana put the task into your calendar?
No, it takes, if you set a date on it, and depending on how you have Asana set up, it'll appear in Asana's calendar, and you can set it up so that Asana lets you know within your other calendars that it publishes through. But when you create a task in Asana, the way that I said, it just basically creates the task referencing back the email, so that when you open that task, you have the originating document so you can source. Again, the same thing as I was just talking about. It's that integration. How you manage that task and how you walk that task through, as far as setting a date and subtasks, et cetera, in it, that's secondary to the integration that we're talking about, which is that initial connection between the email and the task, so that they're tied together, so you always have that as a reference point.
All right, David's asking, how would Evernote function with the new task settings?
I don't know yet. I haven't prepared for next week's webinar.
Okay. Catherine is saying, is email deliverability an issue when the video is linked rather than embedded?
Less, very much less. In April, we'll speak more to that, but yes.
Okay, so how do you convert an email to a task? Can you explain that again?
You just click on the email, and there's a couple things. One is you can take any email and you can make it an event. You can say convert this into an event by right-clicking on the email, and then say make this, and then it becomes a Google Calendar entry for you. So you can convert it into that. Using the taskbar that I showed you on the side, if you're using Google's task tool, it just creates a task that you do, that you fill in, when it's due and all that sort of stuff. But it'll always have a link directly back to that email. to let you know what it is. Similarly, within any of the other tools that you have, if you connect Todoist or Asana, when you create the task, it creates a link back from the email, and it uses usually the subject title of the email. It'll default that as the task's identifier. So it just basically takes it and it brings it into your task manager, and it's in right within there'll be a link that you click back and you see the email, and it populates what other information it can into your task manager. So that's how that all works.
All right. What's the best way to save an email to Evernote?
Well, there's two. If you have the premium version of Evernote, which I don't know if it's changed with the new version, but you can forward the email into Evernote, and then it's stored as an email within Evernote. I prefer, because I do all of my email in Gmail, which is in the browser, just to use the Evernote web clipper and clip the email into Evernote. And it's very simple and an effective way to do it.
All right. Let's see. Is there a way to delete mass emails by the same sender? In search window, I put in NYT to show emails from the NYT, but also includes if someone is mentioned in NYT. Any way to focus that in my sender?
Well, you can search based on sender rather than on subject, and you can do searches and you can classify it based on the email address it's coming from, or the email address it's going to, or the subject. So you can parse your searches out that way, and then just mass select and delete.
All right. Let's see. My Outlook email keeps asking me every day to re-input my password in Apple Mail every day. All the other email accounts are fine. Any ideas? It's that dang Apple ID stuff.
Don't get me started on Apple's cloud and iCloud and the keychain and all that shit.
Lancaster is asking, what would be the benefit of deleting archived email?
Just space. And the lifting of knowing that it can't come back to haunt you, or shouldn't come back to haunt you.
That is true. That is true. Scott Parker is asking if you've tried Drag app to convert emails into to-do items in your columns.
No, I haven't. That sounds cool.
All right. Going through here to see. Does downloading and saving emails offline allow Gmail to load faster?
I don't think so. I don't think it makes a difference.
Jana's saying my main email is Hotmail. What calendar should I use? I also use a Gmail account minimally. I got a new MacBook a few weeks ago, and I'm used to using my iPad or old PC. Learning curve is steep.
I don't know. Microsoft 365 works really well. And so Hotmail is, kind of part of the Microsoft ecosystem. So if you're happy in that, stay with that. If you are going to if you do want to use Google Calendar and the other tools, then you can start to, you can use Gmail with your Hotmail account. You can just create an account within Gmail that pulls your Hotmail account, pulls it all in, and allows you to send to Hotmail from Gmail. So Gmail can become the heart of your system, but you can still keep that Hotmail system going. I still have my old Dottotech email, and it comes into my Gmail account, and I manage it. Nobody would know the difference, but it's an old one. As I've got an old Yahoo Mail account that still comes in, and I still manage through Gmail. So you can, if you decide to go that route, it's not a bad idea. I don't like to encourage people to to sign up for the Google ecosystem, because I think that there's a lot wrong with it. I think that there's a lot of social and kind of long-term negatives to Gmail, to Google. I don't trust them. But there's a balancing act that we all have to decide on, is convenience versus privacy. And at the current point, the amount that I get out of the Google ecosystem versus the privacy that they get from me and the information they get from me, I think that there's an equilibrium there, but I watch it all the time. And the last thing that I want to do, and that's my value system, the last thing that I want to do here is encourage people who don't necessarily hold their privacy at quite the same level as I do, to feel like we're pushing you down that Gmail path. There are other routes that you can take, but as far as straight up convenience, straight up productivity, it's pretty tough to beat.
All right. Let's see. My issue.
We're up to the top of the hour.
Yeah,
so
we are.
last
Yep.
couple questions.
Yep. We're actually. Have you tried Todoist?
Yes, love Todoist.
I don't know if you want me to share the video. It's 6 years old, so
no, don't share that one. If you want to know more about Todoist, check out Mike Vardy, the productivityist. He does a lot more on Todoist.
Okay.
He was on with us last week. He was talking about calendar stuff last week.
Will the Google ecosystem synchronize across all of my iOS devices?
Yes.
All right. What is the best program or app that arranges emails according to senders so that you can click on a sender to see the message they sent?
Outlook does a way better job than Gmail does in that particular case.
I would agree. And I actually had Apple Mail up until about 2 months ago.
Yeah, Apple Mail would do a better job too. Pretty much anybody except Gmail. That's one of Gmail's real suckinesses.
Alrighty. I think that's it.
Good.
Let's see.
April, thank you. You have some duties for your veterans for the rest of the day. You're going to be doing a special event for them. So
I am. I'm actually. I hope I don't cry. I probably will cry every time I talk. They have such just amazing stories. So I'm looking forward to it. It's 5 veterans and they're sharing their military story. So on a live. So that'll be fun.
Yes. Well, our thoughts are with all of our people who have served all of our countries, and we appreciate your service, and we are thinking of you for the rest of the day. Thank you all for joining us for this special 150th episode of Webinar Wednesday. This replay will be available to you for the next week. You can just watch it at any time, share it with others. Check your email in a few hours or probably tomorrow morning with the amount that's going on today. We will send you a follow-up email with links from this episode and different resources. Join us, as well as a link to join us next week when we take a look at the revamp of Evernote. So that's it for the day. April, thank you.
Yeah, everybody. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Have fun storming